Okay, hi guys. There seemed to be some confusion about the development of the multiplayer versus the single player versus the term huge and big update coming in December 24. So I thought I would make a little video explaining the timeline, the rough timeline of Fireworks Mania development and the release of the multiplayer version. Let's get to it. So I've done a little timeline here showing how things have been developed and how I'm branching out to multiplayer and what's going to happen once that goes live and stuff like that. It's very rough, and it's also a little story about how the game kind of came to be. So the game dev started actually very specific on the 5th of January 2019. And I know that because I can look in the GitHub repository where I have the code, and I can see that that's where the first commit is from. I actually have this little bookmark saying days since the 5th of January 2019, meaning I have been developed this game for 2029 days. Just a little fun fact right there. Okay, so game just started there. Okay, then we move forward. We zoom out a bit. We can do like this. So 15-ish, I can't find the real date, but around the 15th of December 2019, meaning roughly a year after, or 12 months after I started, I added the first released, or I released the first free demo on itch.io. And already back then, some YouTubers actually picked that up and tried that out. So that was pretty cool. And then pretty late after, like a month after, I released the free demo on Steam. I did the Steam page prior to that, of course, but I think a year before, or maybe a few months before. And then I added this demo because people were really asking for it a lot. So I did that. Then fast forward like 1 year again later, like 12 months after here, the 17th of December 2020, where I released the first version, official version, paid version on Steam. So hooray, woo, for that. Pretty big deal right here. And this is where everything really started, because that's where all the YouTubers picked it up and people start pouring in. And prior to this, the wish list was kind of going like that due to all the coverage from the YouTubers. So that was pretty cool. So released version here. And up at this time, I didn't know if this game was actually gonna fly, anybody wanted to play it. I could kind of see that on the demo. That was also why I did the demo at first. So I didn't really know how many people would actually be interested in a game about fireworks. So pretty nerve-wracking. But it turns out that a lot of people want it. So this version was very, very basic, and pretty fast I started adding new stuff. There's more to it than what I will show you here. There's a lot of different minor updates coming between these bigger milestones. But anyway, so the first thing, as I remember, was localization, because there was a way to broaden out the game to more people, like something like Steam would only show the game to people with that language if the game supported that language. There was something about that going on YouTube and Steam back then. I can't remember exactly, but localization was a pretty important thing, and really I should have done it before release. But again, I can't do, if I should do everything before release, I wouldn't have released the game yet, because the game is, as you know, still not finished. Now I'm working on multiplayer, and after that I'm working on improving that and some other features and other features. So if I had to wait until I was done with everything, the game wouldn't have been released yet. And I could potentially have wasted 5+ years of my life with a game that people didn't want to play. So therefore it was released in a good enough initial version. People like that, and then I've just kept going on that since 2020. Here you can see December when it was released. So anyway, so I added localization pretty soon after. Then I added mod support. You can see that's roughly 1 year later. Of course, there's a lot of, as I said before, there's a lot of minor updates in here between, in these lines basically, but I didn't want to include everything. So I added mod support, and I added custom map support via mods, and some more destruction. I think this was where I added so you could destroy all the buildings in the town and the range and stuff like that. So since then, because this is December of 2022, this is where I started looking into multiplayer. I remember specifically I started actually on a live stream in January 2023 on the multiplayer, so that was pretty cool. You can find that on my channel if you want. Yeah, so what I'm showing here, and this is where it gets a little complicated, and the reason I'm actually recording this video is that from this point I branched out, you could say. That's what you do in a developer term, called branching out, but to you guys on Steam, it basically means that you can think of this as being in the beta thing in Steam. When you right click on the game, go to properties, and then you go to betas, there you can find different branches, and this is different versions of the game, you could say. Anyway, very complicated. The point is, I'm starting on multiplayer here in January 23, and as you can see here, the white line in the bottom here is the base game, is the default single player version, and it only receives minor updates through 2023, and also you can see over here 24 minor updates. So nothing really happens to the public version of the game, but a lot of happening in here, up here in the background, which is very much in the background in this period, because here I'm starting on it, nobody else than me and a very few people can play it and try it out. Then you might remember, if you've been here for a while, that we had a multiplayer alpha, which was kind of a week or 2 weeks or something like that, around 4th of July in 2023. So that's a year from since then now, because right now, as of recording this, it's July, end of July 2024. So continue, and as I started on the multiplayer, another little note is that when I started on multiplayer, the main focus was up here. Since January 2023, roughly all my focus have been on the multiplayer version, and it's called multiplayer version, but it's also important for me to say that it's much more than just adding multiplayer. Adding multiplayer is of course a big thing, but if you're playing the beta, you also know that there's, for instance, shell and mortar support. There is a totally new UI, and before the release and also after the release, there will be a lot of other things that is not specifically multiplayer related. So it's just important that if you haven't tried the multiplayer, that you know that this thing I'm working on here is not just multiplayer. It's actually a rewrite of a large portion of the game, really. Anyway, so we have the multiplayer alpha here in July 2023. Again, the game down here, the normal game, the white one here, is not receiving any updates. Then we have the multiplayer beta, which became public in December 2023, and have been since then. So this is the one that people are playing. It's not like only one version from December 23, as you also know if you follow along. This line really includes a lot of different updates that I've pushed during 2023 and 2024. So a lot of updates is going on, and I'm continuously doing that the rest of this year 2024 and also afterwards. But I have the deadline of having to have a version that needs to be ready for December 2024, because that's where I want to release this version. And this is where the real confusion comes up, and where why I created this video. Because people are saying, because in my last video I said, okay, now I'm introducing single player into the multiplayer, and that confuses a lot of people. But that's really due to what I said before. The multiplayer is really a rewrite of the entire game. So the old single player is not in this version. It's not really there anymore, because a lot of things have changed. So single player in the new version, instead of calling multiplayer, we should maybe call it the future version or updated or new version or whatever. But anyway, the point is that I'm working on adding multiplayer to this new version up here, because very soon, as you can see, December 2024, this version that I'm currently working on, which have the multiplayer and the new UI and all the other stuff, will become the main one. That's when I'm releasing multiplayer. It's really just a huge update, basically, that I'm pushing out to everybody. Right now, only a very small portion of players are playing the beta over here. It's like less than 10% of the player base is playing the beta. And also, I assume that's also how few know about the beta. So when we get to December and I push this version, however it looks when we get to November, December, time will tell whatever feature I have included in the multiplayer I have had time to include at that point. But anyway, the version that is ready in December will be multiplayer and whatever features I have, and that update will be pushed to all the players on the normal version of the game. So they will get this version. So everybody is on that multiplayer new version of the game. And the reason I'm saying and have written some places that there's this huge update coming in December. And when I'm saying that, I'm actually talking to all the I'm talking to all the people that don't know what's going on the multiplayer side. Because as I said, only less than 10% is playing the multiplayer beta right now. So it's the same amount, I guess, that knows about the multiplayer. So, or roughly at least. The point is, a lot of people don't even know this is going on. So for them, this release here in December will just look like a huge over the night update. Where they got new UI, multiplayer, they got characters, they got custom model characters, they got native shells and mortars and all that other stuff that I will add to this version. So for them, it will be a huge update. And that is what is going to happen, hopefully, in December 2024. And that's what I'm aiming for. So right now, you can see here. So right now, we are at this point where I'm just continuing development of the multiplayer in the beta. As the ones of you who are watching this video is most likely the hardcore players. So you guys know this, but the majority don't. So yeah, so that's why it can be a little weird, because most people in the Discord, most people in the comments here, most people watching this video are the hardcore players of the game, fans of the game, and you guys know this, or know a lot of this anyway, but the majority of the players don't. Anyway, so right now we are here. I'm continuing on the multiplayer beta, and I'm releasing and pushing that to everybody in December 2024. So at that point, the current single player version will not be there anymore, because it will be updated to the latest version. Anyway, and over here to the right, as I said here, the future, this is the future, the release is the future, and the continued development in 2025 and beyond is, or I should really do it this way now that I see myself in the corner here. So this way is continuous development of the game in the future, and let's see where the future brings us. Right now, I will go back and continue on the single player to make that ready. And a side note, as I tried to explain in the last video, I'm doing the single player to get a full featured game, at least with all the features that the current version have, plus the new one. So I have that ready, so the game is shippable at all times. So it's ready to be shipped in December. And then from that is done until the date I'm pushing this update, I will see whatever I can make and add of features to the game. Some of them will get in the version that is released in December, and a lot of them will come later on. So anyway, that was a long one. See you in the next one. Bye.